Who has the best chance to win the Premier League? Well, right now it's the international break. Somehow it's the second one of the season, even though we're 8 weeks in. And I thought, rather than wasting my time, my energy, and ultimately my oxygen on Gareth Southgate's idiotic, biased, antiquated team selection, as I usually do, I thought, why don't we talk about the Premier League? Because now we're 8 games in and pretty much a quarter of the way into the Premier League. In my opinion, there's 4 real contenders for the Premier League title this year, and I'm just going to talk through all of them and then finish by discussing who I think is most likely to win the league. So to start off, currently in first position is Tottenham Hotspur. Now, they've had a really good start to the season, but I think it's fair to say that they haven't had the hardest out of the 4 I've mentioned there. They've played all the newly promoted teams, which with the quality of the promoted teams this season, that's pretty much 9 points, that's a given. And they've also played Bournemouth as well, who are right down there as one of the worst teams in the league so far this season. So I think you have to take their current league position with a pinch of salt. However, I think they've looked very impressive when they've played, your traditional big clubs, obviously beating Manchester United 2-0. And I know that currently Man United aren't that good. Well, that's probably not even fair to the word good. They're not good at all. But still, it is Man United, so they usually get up for the big games. Then also they drew 2-2 with Arsenal, and let's not forget that they robbed 2 points off Liverpool as well. So overall, a very solid start. I think the main positive for Spurs right now is the fact that they're already at the League Cup, and I know that isn't traditionally seen as a positive, but at the end of the day, they don't really have any chance of winning a domestic cup anyway, considering they'll have to face someone like Man City along the way. So the fact they're out of it now, and it means they have even less games to worry about, is fantastic. It means that pretty much they only have to worry about the Premier League and then the FA Cup, but I don't see them going deep into that either, considering they were knocked out by Sheffield United last year, and the year before that they're knocked out by Middlesbrough. And going off that logic, it means that this year they're probably also going to be beaten by a pretty good Championship side, so someone like, Ipswich is going to knock them out this year. That's an early prediction there from me. But yeah, it means that they can just focus entirely on the league, which is what you need when you're going for the league, especially when they have a squad as thin as theirs. And I'd say that's the biggest weakness for them right now. If they lose players like Basuma, Maddison, Son, Destiny, Udogie, right there, that's going to put them in a real issue. And I think just for that reason alone, they're going to struggle to see out their current lead in the Premier League. And as mental as it sounds, I don't think and then winning the league is massively out of the realms of possibility right now. Next up is Arsenal, and look, currently joint top of the league. Well, not really, because they're behind on goals scored. But in terms of the points and goal difference, they're currently tied with Spurs at the top of the league. They've had a relatively good start to the season, obviously being topped by that 1-0 win against Man City the other day. In terms of the main positive for Arsenal this year, the fact that they've beaten Man City, who clearly were a major mental block for them last season as they were beaten 3 times, I think that's going to be huge for them. And I think that could give them the belief that they could actually go and win the Premier League. But also I do think there's lots of things going against them. Just to name a few, I think their squad this season is worse than it was last season. I think Granit Xhaka is a huge loss for them. And already I think we're seeing it in games like that 2-2 draw at home against Fulham, that they're lacking some leadership in that squad. Another weakness they have is Kai Havertz. I also believe they lack some depth in the right wing position, and I think Arteta sort of has a habit of overplaying his key players as well, which I think also could damage them with the sort of lack of squad depth I still think they have. Despite the fact they spent so much money in the summer, I still think the drop-off between what their first 11 would be to their second 11 is pretty dire, and it means that they're going to struggle to be able to see out the Premier League, especially considering that they're still in all the cups and they're in the Champions League. That's a lot of games for them to play, and that's going to make it difficult for them to win the Premier League this year. Next up is Manchester City, and they have lost 3 games in a row now, but they're still third in the Premier League. I think Rodri's suspension is ultimately the reason they've lost the last 3 games. He's everything for them. He's creative in the way that he keeps the ball ticking over, and he adds so much to them defensively as well that if he plays in their past 3 games, they win all of them. And I think a lot of people have been quite short-term about Man City, but still, in my opinion, they have to be favourites to win the Premier League. They've won it the past 3 years in a row, and their squad is just excellent. They have the best manager in the world in Pep Guardiola, and I really struggle to make a case for how they won't win the Premier League. And for that reason, despite their poor form, I still see Man City as contenders for the Premier League title. And finally is Liverpool. I think people are sleeping on Liverpool, to be honest. I think they really are in with a shot of winning the title. I believe they're only 1 point behind Manchester City, only 3 points behind being top of the Premier League. They would have gone top if, they weren't robbed against Spurs, and if, Gravenberg could have scored that open goal chance against Brighton. But look, I think they've got great squad depth, especially in their forward positions and in the midfield even. I think if you want to point out areas of weakness in that squad, it's probably Trent and the depth in the right back position generally. And when I say Trent, I mean defensively. He's a bit of a liability sometimes. Then also I think they lack a top quality left back to come in when Robertson can't play. Again, the Europa League could be a problem for them. It means they're going to have to play significantly more games than Spurs. And also, I think, unlike Arsenal and Man City, who are in the Champions League, there's always a chance that they go out early. I think it's quite unlikely that Liverpool don't go all the way in the Europa League, which is just going to be constant fixtures, especially coming into the back end of the season, which is where the Premier League title is ultimately decided in those last sort of 10 games where we saw Arsenal bottle it catastrophically last year. And just to wrap up this video, who do I believe is going to win the Premier League? Well, if someone put a gun to my head right now and asked me to make my prediction of who's going to win the Premier League, first of all, I'd ask him to put the gun down, because that is a bit rude. But ultimately, I would say that Man City still have the best chance of winning it. Obviously, for the reasons I've gave earlier, and also they've got that winning mentality. Clearly, won the treble last year. They've won the Premier League the past 3 seasons. I think it's going to be an absolute miracle, to be honest, if they don't win it again. But yeah, that's about it from this video. Thanks for watching.